Welcome to the studio, Rabbi Levi Gansburg.
Thank you, Susan, for having me.
So nice to see you. How am I going to address you? Rabbi Levi, Rabbi Gansburg?
Yeah, Rabbi Levi's fine.
Because that's how I address you.
Yeah, most people address me that way. Is there any right way? Yeah.
Okay. So, you and I, we go back to 2007 when you first opened your Chabad on Bayview, in a house on Bayview in York Mills. We first met. That's when we became acquainted.
Yeah.
And fast track to today, and you have a beautiful shul with more than 500 families with educational and all kinds of school programs and social programs, and it's wonderful to see the growth, and I'm really proud.
Well, thank you so much, and everything that Rivki and I have built from the ground up was really in a partnership with everybody that has come and attended and supported, and it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a village to build a community, so we're grateful.
So I want to talk about Chabad, okay, because not everybody knows what the Chabad movement is, so maybe you can start with that.
Sure. The Chabad movement, in its history, is some 250 years old. It's a philosophy and a way of life. It's part of the Hasidic movement, which focuses on faith of God, joy, and the love of a fellow. I mean, that's the general overview of the Hasidic movement. The Chabad movement, in its philosophy, has a little bit more of an intellectual spin, prying and trying to understand who God is, why He created a world, and where we fit into this picture. In the last couple of, since 1950, the Rebbe of blessed memory has taken the Chabad movement and flipped it inside out to build it into a movement of kindness and education, not just to the people from within the community, but to every Jewish person, wherever they are.
Okay, so maybe you can define what Chabad means exactly, what it stands for.
Sure. So Chabad is comprised of three Hebrew letters, Chet, Bet, and Daled, which stands for Chachma, Bina, and Dad. And in English that translates as wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. And it takes the essence of the Hasidic movement, but it then pries at it in an intellectual form to really understand who God is. It's one of the precepts of the Torah to understand who God is, to try to understand why we're in this world and what our duty and our mandate is in this world. So in summation, Chabad is an intellectual pursuit of a way of life, of meaning, of purpose, of godliness and sanctity.
So I want to talk for a few minutes about the Rebbe. So why was he such a spiritual, great leader?
So the Rebbe was a leader par excellence, and it's funny that the Rebbe didn't really want to take the helm of leadership. He actually resisted it for an entire year after his predecessor, his father-in-law, passed away.
May I ask you to just name him?
Sure. So the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Schneerson, who passed away in 1994. We're coming up on his 29th yahrzeit in less than a week. I don't know if that's relevant to this. But the Rebbe was a leader on so many levels. But I think if I had to break it down, I would say the Rebbe was a leader of empowerment, not of power. Many leaders look for power and control. And the Rebbe spent his entire life looking to uplift and empower people to see the leadership quality within themselves. He believed in people more possibly than they believed in themselves. And it was a decentralized form. He didn't want people to lean on him. He wanted them to glean the fundamentals of Judaism and Torah from his teachings, but then to take it and make it their own wherever and however they need to implement it. And that was, I'd say, one key issue. Another thing was the Rebbe loved every Jew. He loved people, period. He had faith in humanity. He looked at every Jew as his responsibility. And in empowering people, he really wanted them to do that too, to think globally, even if you're in a specific local area, to think that every Jew, whether you're on a plane, you're in a restaurant, you're at the pulpit, whatever you're doing, you have to take responsibility for everyone you come in contact with. And that's what made him unique, I think, in some way. And finally, I think the Rebbe was an anomaly in terms of a Hasidic leader. On the one hand, one hand was way beyond the world. He was steeped in the words of Torah and mysticism and Talmud. And yet on the other hand, he had a hand well in the world. He had his finger on the pulse of what the classic American Jew or a global Jew needed, what was needed for them. And he tried to merge those two worlds by uplifting the Jew closer to Torah and also bringing the Torah closer to the Jew where they themselves needed at that moment.
Wow. So how did he become a pioneer in Jewish outreach?
So the Rebbe didn't create this idea on his own. He always talked that he was an extension of his predecessor, his father-in-law, Rabbi Joseph Schneerson, and the 6 preceding Rebbes, all the way to the founder of the Chabad movement, Reb Shneir Zalman.
Which was when?
Some 250 years ago.
Okay.
So at the end of the 18th, early 19th century. The Rebbe saw himself as an extension of that. The deep mystical ideas that were always applied and broadened by his father-in-law, both in communist Russia and later when he came in 1940 to America, the Rebbe then took that and broadened it to the point that it had to mean it literally. It applied to every one of his followers and anyone who would listen, and to do so with no strings attached, to do it from the heart, which means if we love someone and we want to take responsibility for them, it doesn't matter where you are, not in your religious state and not in your geographic state. We have to care for them. And that became a pioneering theme for a post-Holocaust generation where people were just looking to get back on their 2 feet. And the Rebbe asked young people to leave that stability that they just found and to go to far-flung corners of the world to care for the Jew that may not have a community.
And what do you think inspired him to focus on the global outreach?
The inspiration for the Rebbe's work was deeply mystical. On the one hand, he saw it as an extension of everything that we study and learn. It was a godly calling. But on the other hand, I'd say, in Hebrew we call it tzav hasha'a. The Rebbe saw it as the call of the generation. He was responding to the cry of the Jews post-Holocaust. That was his inspiration. Every Jew, whatever religious state they were, whatever geographic state they were, needed someone to put a hand around their shoulder and say, you belong. So he did so with meaning, with purpose, but he did it as a response to the call of his generation, and he asked his followers to do the same in their time, in each generation.
So, if I'm correct, the Rebbe used to hand out dollar bills to everyone he met. What was the meaning in that?
So historically, in the first few decades of his leadership, the Rebbe met with people one-on-one. But as the community grew and his reach grew, it just simply wasn't possible, so it stopped. But about a decade later, so many people wanted to meet the Rebbe, one-on-one, if you will, and the Rebbe said, let them come by and I'll see them. But the Rebbe always said that when 2 people come together, something good has to come out for a third. So he turned it into a moment of inspiration where it would have a ripple effect well beyond the meeting of these 2 people. And he said, if I give every person I meet a dollar bill for tzedakah, for charity, then our meeting wasn't just a frozen moment right here, but its ripple effect would happen. So, and of course, that's what ended up being. For years to come, tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people would line up Sundays, including myself. I had many opportunities as a child to be able to meet the Rebbe as through the lens of a child. I had personal stories as well of the Rebbe's sensitivity to a child as I walked by around my birthday time. But the Rebbe wanted that when a moment happens, it shouldn't just be an isolated moment. It should be a timeless moment. And that's the beauty of tzedakah being such a cornerstone of Jewish thought and practice, that should be the offshoot of a meeting between 2 souls.
Wow, very, very special, very meaningful. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, and thank you.
Very timely. So I found our conversation very fascinating, as our viewers will too, and thank you so much for being here, Rabbi Levi. A wonderful conversation.
Thank you, Susan, for having me. It's wonderful to be here.